Hey folks, so funny story before I get into just continuation of this playthrough. My original voice recording was a complete failure and it didn't record whatsoever, so I'm kind of having to redub this altogether. But most of the stuff that you're going to see in this lesson is kind of going to be stuff you're already familiar with the exception of a few things. But as you saw, I put in my Kodama blessing that gets you more soul cores. I'm going to go kill this umbrella right now, which is right over here. So, being as this is the first time I've encountered the umbrella, umbrellas make a return from the first Nioh, and they're a bit more frustrating this time around. As you can see, paralysis, spam, and non-stop stuff. And then I'm not sure if this one does one of the newer attacks, or if I even let it. But one of the ways you can deal with this umbrella is just non-stop attack it until it's done. But yeah, it's other than that, it's not too bad. But they're one of those enemies that's kind of a nuisance to deal with when you first encounter them or encounter them in groups. They're pretty rough in groups because it's like, hey, I'm going to get paralyzed. In the same way in which these skeleton warriors are kind of frustrating because, hey, they just snipe you and you're not able to pay attention. But, alright, just continuing some usual traversion of a level. Down there you can see that there is an umbrella. I don't remember exactly how I decide to get down, or if I drop down right away, or you can see over there, that's the boss arena, most likely, because you got the skull. I'm just trying to scout some enemies. I noticed that there are all sorts of skeleton archers, people just waiting to snipe you, so just take them out at a safe distance. There's one over there in the distance, and yeah, I'm just going to use a cannon on a cannoneer because I don't want to take any risks, and neither should you. But let's see, do I have damage numbers on? No, I do not. I think this is when I finally realized I need to put my damage numbers on. That's just a force of habit from how I play on stream, in which I just don't like to see the damage numbers because it kind of intrudes in my combo-based play. But yeah, it looks like there's a soul core in the distance. I definitely want to get it, but I need to figure out how to get there. And there it seems to be a whole system of like planks going from one place to the next. Here they actually decided to put a spear skeleton, which most of the time will catch you by surprise, and for whatever reason the 2 hits that it does will kind of kill you. But skeletons in general are very much paper bags and very vulnerable to all sorts of things. So provided you're not caught off guard, you'll be good to go to deal with them. And then of course I'm using Bloody Grace to give me information, so it looks like someone fell to death. Hopefully I don't fall to death, because that would be a pretty rookie thing to do, right? Right? But okay, we've got Karasu Tengu, Raven Tengu. Again, if you need my Raven Tengu guide, you can check that out, but these enemies are fairly straightforward. There's one little interesting environmental thing that I know I've tapped into before, aside from the chicken bone, by the way, which is the whole purity sort of pots. You pop them, inflict a good amount of key damage, get the purity, almost like a purity talisman that lasts a lot longer. But yeah, I've inflicted confusion, and I'm just generally trying to show you the value of switching guardian spirits and mixing things up so you can adapt to all sorts of situations. And then yeah, how do I deal with this Tengu? It falls down. Yeah, it's dead. Sweet. Alright, and I fall down too. Forgot about that. So, yeah, so much for the whole rookie mistake thing. Looks like I made it as well. Now, it sucks. I lost that Skeleton Warrior Soul Core that was in the distance, but now we just gotta do stuff again. So, even though I have all this information, all this knowledge, just remember that the backbone of Nioh 2 gameplay really is about making good decision making as opposed to doing anything super duper fancy. All the fancy stuff really does come into play, but if your decision making is not reasonable, then you're gonna struggle. So, it's always important to kind of just make sure you really are sticking to those fundamentals, because that's one of the things that's missing from many players at a time. So again, I'm using what I consider to be smarter decision making. I've got the rage advantage. I'm going to take advantage of it as well. We've got a cannoneer over here. This was actually a little bit of a poor judgment on my part. So I'm trying to snipe it, which is fine. But then I decide, you know what? I'm going to stay directly in its line of fire. And I take a cannon shot and I nearly die. So now I think I learned that, hey, let me just at least stay mobile, and ooh, at least I blocked there. So again, not the smartest decision, but that's okay. And then I remember there's a spear skeleton, and then here's something you can do against spear skeletons. If you do any sort of quick draw ability, they pretty much automatically get knocked down to the ground. So that's really helpful. There's other tactics you can use. but that one works well. And then I distinctly make sure I don't fall down now. Yeah, I remember that. I gotta make sure I don't fall down. And then I just keep investigating these graves to see what more information I can get as I continue through this level. So now I'm just making my way back to wherever these little ledges or planks, I don't know what to call them, will lead me to, and just continue exploring before I get down into the Dark Realm and the boss room, which is, I guess, presently at my 12 o'clock. And then I'm getting a ninjutsu point, and then I'm looking at what I can go for. If a big interesting thing, aside from getting more shadow feathers, is that eventually we'll be able to get things like quick change scrolls, which I know I just hovered over really quickly. I won't use them, but they're really valuable. Gosh, I don't know what I talked about when I originally did this. Alright, so just the usual. Let's just see what's here. Let's see what I can find. And then, okay, there's family reunion over there. Drop down to a safe spot. Now I'm in the Dark Realm. Let's see what's nearby. And okay, John Cena is over here. And then just trying to get behind it. Switching my burst counter types. Doing all sorts of attacks and keeping that pressure going. Got confusion. And like, look, I'm just layering all these different things. And not even worried about getting destroyed because I'm the one destroying them. I'm the one controlling the pace of the fight. So even though I'm saying like, hey, tech may not save you or super powered stuff may not save you, you can still get away with a lot if you be a little greedy, a little reckless from time to time. But it is really important that you still stick to the fundamentals. So I'm keeping myself at range, doing stuff that makes me safe, and then when I know I can get away with stuff, that's when I start padding things in. So let's bear that in mind, and I'm just exploring here. We've got Nurakabe, so there's a 2 out of 3 chance to get this right. So let's see. I do a hostile gesture. Any luck? Sweet. Sweet. Alright, continuing on. And then we've got a big skeleton coming up here. I don't know if I faced one beforehand. I don't think so. But if you're familiar with them from the first Nioh, then you're in good shape. We got a burst attack, and it's actually faster than what was shown because I put lightning on it. But as you can see, I'm trying to just take everything to its limit, really not even paying attention so much to a lot of combat principles, except maybe the burst counter. And then here's something that's actually kind of crazy. Yeah. Yeah, that'll screw you up. I think the first time I saw that in the game, I was just so surprised. I didn't expect that to happen coming from Nioh 1, because all the skeleton enemies in Nioh 1 really weren't that much of a threat. But now I'm like, okay, now I'm a little wiser. Now I know, hey, they are very liable to do some crazy wake-up attacks. And skeleton warriors are a lot more of a threat in Nioh 2 than they were in Nioh 1. So again, don't get arrogant. It's a bad idea. But alright, now I'm playing a little bit more on my toes and really just trying to see what I can find. And it looks like that is the Dark Realm boss. And if you notice, around where it's traveling, you might spot some little spider lilies of sorts. And that kind of lets you know it's the Dark Realm boss, as well as the fact that it's being highlighted on the mini-map. So okay, remember, if you hit the heads, then you will briefly stagger it. So yeah, it's very weak for that reason. And so I'm taking advantage of any long animation times to get away with the Karasu Soul Core. And then just going willy-nilly, it's out of key. Same thing, non-stop pressure, going for a sheath. And then if you don't know, you can pop Yokai Shift on a downed enemy in order to go straight into a grapple. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, like, you just use the information that you have at your disposal to take extreme advantage of many enemies, especially when they have downtime. Speed is great, don't get me wrong, and I'm sure many of you have seen lots of speedy gameplay from myself, but it's also really important to just play intelligently. That's one thing that's for certain. So hey, that thing caught me off guard, but this enemy is kind of a sandbag, all things considered. If you pressure it, it can't really respond to it that well, and as you can see, it's dead. So yeah, there are many enemies in this game which will put next to no threat if you decide to be aggressive and confident with your gameplay. So I'm just getting items. I think I'm preparing for the boss. This boss that's coming up frustrates a lot of people. Looks like I got all the Kodama. What do I decide to get for ninjutsu? I think I've already got the ninjutsu capacity. I think I start getting passives. Yeah, I probably get Cloud Runner. Moving a little faster is always great. Sneak Thief's always nice. Which one do I end up picking? I have no clue. I probably take the movement speed. Yeah, okay. But there's a lot of very interesting ninja skill passives, and even if you're just pretty much bare bones combat oriented like I am, there's a lot of very valuable jutsu that we can mix in, and I think covering all of them would take too long. But if you like your jutsu, feel free to experiment with them, because they're pretty awesome. There's, as I just hovered over, you can even get like more elixirs, so even if you're not a main ninjutsu player, it's still worth getting it. Alright, let's see. I'm probably checking for better equipment. Looks like I do get a better sword, so take it. No hesitation whatsoever. And yeah, I think, am I going straight into the boss room, or am I going to save at the shrine? If I was smart enough, I'd probably try to go save at the shrine. I actually avoid that shortcut because there's no real need for it, but it's a nice one. We're basically at the boss room. Oh, am I actually going for the shortcut? Am I? Yeah, I'm probably going for the shortcut then, for completion's sake. Oh, that's right. I never finish off this spear skeleton, dude. Alright. And it's dead. Thank you, Sword of Discernment, for super quick attacks. Sword of Discernment's an ability you don't want to underestimate, even if it's not the strongest. It's really fast and can interrupt enemies whenever the hell you'd like. But okay, continuing around. I think I've pretty much cleared everything in this level. I'm probably just verifying it at this point, seeing if I can find any hidden gems. And then, let's see, I think now I should be going back to the shrine. Am I gonna go back? Oh, this little maneuver I'm doing is basically running attack and low stance. And then I dodge key pulse and then input buffer a running attack and then just keep going from there. It's really not too hard. You can always just rewatch my fingers and do it over and over again. Alright, let's see. Do I swap soul cores? I don't know if I do. I probably don't. Mitsume Yasura is an interesting core in that depending on the element of your guardian spirit, you can switch the elemental type. So if you have a lightning guardian spirit, then you will do lightning version of that. And then if you have a fire guardian spirit, you'll do fire, water, and so on and so forth. Let's see, what am I deciding when it comes to resting rights? Am I just getting rid of stuff that I don't care for? I don't actually remember. Let's see. I'm probably just like, yeah, this is too much loot. I don't really care about all this loot, and I just want to play and move on, right? Right? Is that what I'm trying to do? I think so. Right? Okay. Yeah, great. Oh, I see. I'm trying to get my shifting level up. So I'm just getting rid of anything I know is excessive. And you really don't need to worry about your soul cores right now. As we get through the game, you'll of course get tons and tons and tons of them, and not to mention higher difficulties will present you greater rarities of them, so don't get too attached to any of this. If you find stuff with yokai ability key pulse or things with anima inherits, which I'll talk about at some point, not necessarily in this video, but if you have like yokai ability key pulse, it's worth keeping that, or if you have things that have good inheritables or transferables, then I would keep them. But let's see, what am I deciding to get? Since I've got an 80% key from a burst counter, I'm probably deciding which of the resource management tools I want. So knowing me, I would probably go for the key recovery things first, and then start to go for the anima bonus related things. So I think it doesn't really matter which one I pick, so I think I just get the key penalty ones first. I got the Yokai Realm one, and then eventually I'll probably get the Dark Realm one, and then now I'm just going to rush to the boss, I think. Oh, it looks like I missed a little piece of loot. But other than that, I'm good to go, right? And then, yeah, okay, definitely looks like I'm going for the boss. Froze to death? Okay. Alright, boss time. So, this boss generally gives many players a lot of trouble. Skip the cutscene. So, I believe if you shot it in the earlier Dark Realm stuff, that you have an advantage in terms of its maximum keep, but it may not help too much, at least towards later parts of the fight. So, as I'm done before, I am just trying to understand basic attack patterns, see what sticks out to me, what I recognize, and just generally playing it very safe. There's also pots around here, so you can use that to help inflict purity against this yokai boss, which can help. But right now I'm much more interested in the moveset. So we've got 4 homing projectiles, which each spawn their own yokai realm, so I can use that as an advantage to help me get yokai abilities. And then that's the second of new burst attacks. There's another one, so there's like a lot of these burst attacks and a grab, and it can have some surprising aggression, but that's not actually where a lot of the difficulty with this boss lies. As you can see, it has many options for range, but once we get into the Dark Realm, that's usually what trips up most people. So I've kind of gotten a grasp, and hopefully you will at this point, that it has a lot of range attacks, but overall, the raw moveset it has is fairly predictable. It's got like 2 beak strikes. It looks like I start retaliating, and once I know I got it out of key. And then this is actually where the craziness is, I believe, gonna start. So I go into Yokai Shift, and then what happens in the Dark Realm is actually you lose lock on, and then it's completely dark. And so you're like, okay, I guess it's annoying, but it's not. That's actually not the worst part. All right. So I'm like doing pretty reasonably well using Yokai Shift, right? But here's what's gonna get people. So, you know, you can't see stuff, and then all of a sudden you might realize, like I do at this point, that holy crap, something else is shooting at me, and I gotta manage that and the owl at the same time. And so it can be difficult to figure out what to deal with, how to address it, because you've got just willy-nilly projectiles coming for you, and you've got this whole boss attacking you, and you know, you get stuck in a corner and you're not even familiar with the moveset, and then bam, you're dead. So what the heck do you do? How do you deal with this? Because it's purposely been made so that it's quite difficult for you to understand what's going on. So of course it's really important to keep your cool and not necessarily just try to brute force your way through it. You can brute force your way through it as you get more comfortable with things, but we still need to have a good grasp of the situation and really read what this boss is going to do. So the Dark Realm is arguably the most difficult part, but normally now we kind of have an idea of what we're going to do. So it has a sort of wingspan sort of spin. It has that laser beam, and you know there's a lot of downtime associated with it, and we can use the Yokai Realms to our advantage. At this point I think I've been comfortable enough with the burst attack that it does when it flies by. Has a bit of a wind up, and now I'm like, alright, you know what, now that I'm a bit more comfortable, let's just go in a bit more. So it has a wake up attack. I use the opportunity to set up stuff. And now I'm like, you know what? Okay, now I know we've got this big orb stuff that's very familiar from the earlier parts of the level, so I know if I take that down, I should dispel the Dark Realm. So I'm trying to use what I know from the Owl's moveset, like its knowledge, and sort of audio cues like I had there, just so I kind of know what to expect. So I may not be able to see the owl, like literally you can't, but I can, at the very least, hear what it's going to do, and this will be valuable for other situations. So now I'm rewarded for taking that out, that little orb out, and being able to get a grapple. And now I'm using its downtime to do the double jutsu cancel and just murder it to pieces. And so this is going to be a rinse and repeat of before. So I'm searching for that orb because I want to find it, and there it is. And now I just got to be wary of the owl. I know it flies, I know it shoots projectiles, and I know while it's doing that, I'm safe. But I need to be wary of where its position is. Alright, there it is. Okay, we got 2 claw hits. Alright, what's coming up next? Alright, there's a grab. I know, okay, that's some downtime after the grab. So let's go in. Shoot! Back away, because I don't want to deal with too much. Let me just create the distance that I'd like. Alright. I'm taking advantage of his downtime, using my yokai abilities. Looks like I dispelled the Dark Realm, but it doesn't look like I was able to deplete all of its ki. So okay, now I know what to expect. I've got Yokai Shift ready. Okay, let's just regain my bearings. Alright, here we go. Now I can go in since there's some attacks I recognize. Alright, burst attack, yep. And then go for the burst counter. Now it's out of ki. And now it's fully out of ki, so I probably go into Yokai Shift now. Do I? Do I? I feel like I would. Nope, I decided to do double jutsu cancel. Oh, okay. Alright, well I guess I didn't really need to. I can't see it for squat. There's the orb. I'm probably going to use Yokai Shift at this point, because I'm like, you know what, I don't want to die. And so I probably just want to kill the orb. Yeah, I should use yokai abilities. And then, yep, see, just took it out, used my resources, didn't really want to deal with that whole mess, and then now it's dead. So, again, good decision making really makes a big difference. Tech is not necessarily going to save you, but it is really nice. And so that is one major hurdle taken care of. And yep, I, again, have to apologize if this lesson was a little wonky, but hopefully the concepts aren't too complicated this time around. But that's going to be very different from the next video, which is probably going to destroy your sense of self-esteem because it destroys everybody. But hopefully you feel a bit more confident for the upcoming challenges that are ahead. So I'm just going to leave it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope this was helpful, and I'll see you guys next time.